questions. I really did. Um,
All right, we are going live.
okay.
So I'm just gonna get us settled here, and
All
people
right.
are starting to come into the attendance room. Welcome,
Okay.
Lorraine Williams. Welcome, Watson
Okay.
Ray. Oh, I see people are saying hello to you already, Miss
Yes.
Brenda.
Hey.
Uh, just to let and Valerie, and oh, it's so great to have Anne Marie
Yeah.
here. So I'm Misha Safran, and I am co-hosting with my partner Jody Lewis, and we're going to do a brief introduction. And Jody is going to be facilitating the evening. Thank you all for being here. It's very exciting to see Brenda again.
Yeah.
We met because we have some like-minded thoughts and philosophies and experiences. So um, if you're here in the chat attending right here in the webinar with us, please feel free to say where you're calling in from, zooming in from. If there's anything in particular you're hoping for this evening, we'd love to hear it. Those of you watching on Facebook, I'll be monitoring the Facebook comments. You can also do the same. Let us know where you're Facebooking in from. Any questions or comments you have, anything you hear that resonates with you or that moves you. We want to know it. We want to see it. We want to hear it. And those of you on my podcast channel, please also let us know. If you're hearing something that is moving you or something you want to know more about. And just a little introduction to myself. My name is Misha Safran. I am a joy coach, and part of my mission in my business is to be an anti-racist. Part of my mission in life is to be an anti-racist. And these webinars are really critical piece, but not the only piece to having the BIPOC community heard. And thank you, Watson. Yeah, and not only that, but we don't talk a whole lot during these webinars. We want to give the microphone over to our guests because we can say that we hear your experience, we can understand your experience, but we don't know your experience because we are not Black, we are not Indigenous, and we are not people of color. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jody to introduce herself, and then we'll read the introduction about our beautiful guest, Brenda, in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Jody Lewis. I am an attorney. I actually am the legal director for a nonprofit organization that provides services for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Misha was the one that started these webinars and brought me in as her partner, and I'm so excited to be here. It's a conversation that we need to be having consistently in this country and elsewhere. And I'm very excited to have Brenda back, and particularly to be talking tonight specifically, or in some part or whole part, regarding her new book that's coming out, but also really looking at and diving into mass incarceration and the negative ramification it has on the BIPOC community. And it's dear to me as well, just because of the work I do and the intersectionality between violence and racism. And also having been a former prosecutor, it's something that it was very early on in my legal career, and I look back on it and I have so many questions regarding my own white lens and how that affected cases and my blindness to the greater systemic problem that was happening. So I'm very excited to have this conversation tonight with Brenda.
Thank you. And we're going to introduce Brenda to you in a formal way. So let me get that screen up because this is the why it's so exciting to do this because I'm learning technology.
And I'm still behind the curve on it.
Yeah. But I can never get it to work at the same time. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to press share and I'm going to press present. And ta-da! Black Lives Matter. So this webinar has been since day one called A Candid Conversation about Systemic Racism. Today we're featuring Brenda Kaye Johnson. And what we want people to know is that we do not take advantage of anyone's time. So each panelist that comes on our show, we're putting in our own pocket money, but if people do want to make donations towards us being able to continue these, that would be great. And I use the Venmo account. But we give our panelists a choice. They can either be paid for their time, we can publicize their business or whatever they want publicized, or we can donate money to a charity that's important to them. And when Brenda and her daughter Amber came on a couple months ago, they asked so generously that we give the money that would have gone to them to helping provide laptops to children in the community. And that felt really good to us. Awesome. It would have also felt good to put the money in their pockets, but that was what they had chosen. And I felt that was just so, it's like continuously giving, right? Just because we give to you doesn't mean you have to give back to us. Like we give, you give, they give, it's a really beautiful thing. So Brenda Kaye Johnson is a retired United States Army Reserve officer. After leaving military service, she homeschooled her son and daughter for 5 years while working part-time, starting a business, and volunteering within her community. Don't busy people know how to be busier? The business, CreativEdge Enterprises, competed and won 2 franchise locations within the Philadelphia International Airport, and Eddie's Ice Cream and Pizzeria Uno. Prior to opening the locations, they were sold for a substantial profit. At the same time, returning to part-time military training, she attended Command and General Staff College at Fort Dix, New Jersey. Brenda Kaye attended California Polytechnic State University as a speech communications major and completed her Bachelor of Science in Liberal Arts with a concentration in communication at Excelsior College. And one of the things that we're talking about is not necessarily the book that Brenda is co-authoring with Xavier Zane, a current inmate, but also her experiences with incarceration and the mistreatment and of Black lives. So we just wanted to have a quick introduction for you all to Brenda, and back to Jody and Brenda.
I think just to put us in context, I think giving a little bit of statistics and a little bit of information is helpful. Looking at the NAACP website, African Americans are incarcerated at 5 times the rate of whites, and yet only 32% of the U.S. population is represented by African Americans and Hispanics, is the statistic they had. But I think an important piece is when you look at there's been some great books looking at incarceration and Blacks being incarcerated. We had The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander and Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. And when you look at those, particularly The New Jim Crow, really spoke about how mass incarceration is the new Jim Crow, that mass incarceration is being used to oppress and keep oppressing BIPOC community. And it's really interesting because the war on drugs, like when 1980s, when it came out, right, is some of the premise of her books. When the war on drugs came out, there was this thought that, oh my gosh, the ghettos are horrible and all this drug activity is happening. Well, guess what? It was declared, the war on drugs was declared before crack cocaine even hit the streets. And it was a way that our system really continued slavery and that mass incarceration. And I just want to read a piece from The New Jim Crow that's specific regarding how states and this country have used drug crimes to keep African Americans oppressed, and then talk a little bit about Brian Stevenson, and then just hand it over to Brenda to be able to talk about her experience with people in her lives and the premise of her book and what's happening there. But so this is from The New Jim Crow. Human Rights Watch reported in 2000 that in 7 states, African Americans constituted 80 to 90% of all drug offenders sent to prison. In at least 15 states, Blacks are admitted to prison on drug charges at a rate from 20 to 57 times greater than that of white men. In fact, nationwide, the rate of incarceration for African American drug offenders dwarfs the rate of whites. When the war on drugs gained full steam in the mid-1980s, prison admission for African Americans skyrocketed, nearly quadrupling in 3 years, and then increasing steadily until it reached in 2000 a level more than 26 times the level in 1983. The number of the year of 200,000 drug emissions for Latinos was 22 times the number of 1983 emissions. And whites have been admitted to prison for drug offenses at increased rates as well, but it's relatively small when you look at the rate compared to Blacks and Latinas. And the piece in this to keep in mind is that whites sell and use drugs at a rate that's comparable or more than Blacks, yet it's Blacks that are being incarcerated at this huge rate. And in conjunction with that, we also know when you look at Just Mercy and the work that Stevenson did, is that Blacks are being convicted and incarcerated, are accepting pleas and incarcerated, even though they didn't commit the crime or a crime. And I just want to kind of put that in context that the United States has used the prison system as a way to continue systemic oppression. And then Blacks are getting out of prison and they have felony record and they're being denied benefits, housing, voting ability, and that is continue to create a system where that systemic oppression is continuing onward. So I think it's important to keep those statistics in mind of the rate of incarceration of the BIPOC community compared to whites for, in a lot of cases, low-level crimes or crimes they did not even commit. So with that, Brenda, we'd love to hear from you regarding, your book and the premise behind it and what your experience has been with people that you know and incarceration.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you, Jody, for those statistics, because that was really important. Because like I said, I'm going to talk more from the personal level of those I have met that are incarcerated, rather than discussing it at the big picture level, more or less. When I think of the song Southern Trees, when I was growing up in high school, I loved Lady Sings the Blues. I think we saw it 100 times because we loved it. And Billie Holiday's song, Southern Trees, is basically Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the roots. And it was talking about Black people being lynched, specifically Black men. But now we've basically gone from, instead of being lynched, we went into the police have always been able to brutalize Black people for whatever the reason. And then now we've got these people in the communities that call themselves a community police that feel that they have the right to chase Black people down and shoot or kill them and feel like nothing's going to happen to them. So sometimes we're like, wow, where is the safe place, for us really in America? In America. But when I look at the prison industrial complex, I look at sometimes the lives of people that when they give you 30 years to 65 years, wow, they've given you life. Basically, that is life. If we look at the gentleman that just recently got out, he was the oldest juvenile in Pennsylvania. He went in at 14 years old, and I think he just got out like at 85 or something like that. What in the world is he supposed to do? If he didn't have a family, he couldn't even have gotten out, because the system's so twisted up. Without somebody standing behind you, even when you go to parole, you're not going to get out. But what I wanted to discuss really was from my personal level. I've got to go back to college, okay, because that was my first experience with the prison industrial complex or the prison system. I attended Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, this gorgeous school, California, on the basically like 13, 15 miles from the beach. You had Pismo Beach, Avila Beach, Montano de Oro, Morro Rock, some of the most beautiful beaches along the California coast are there. But then you also have this prison that's there that I never even really noticed or paid attention to while I was driving back and forth, passing it all the time, going to the beach. Well, in college, we started a chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Actually, it's the same sorority that our Vice President Harris is in. So we're what we call Soras. We're sorority sisters. So that sorority is a community-based project-based sorority. And what that means, we would do community projects. So what we did is one of the young ladies that I went to college with, who was the president and I was the vice president of the chapter that we started, her husband was in the prison. So when she said, well, hey, we can go volunteer there, all of us were like, I think it was like 20 of us that pledged initially, somewhere in there. I can't remember the exact number, but we're like, you figure this was like our freshman or sophomore year of college. So we're all like 18, 19 years old. So we like, hey, yeah, sure. Well, they let us in the prison, not in the visitors room. I'm talking like in the prison where you go in the back. All of us were flabbergasted. I think our jaws were on the floor because we were like, dang, we said, this is where all the Black men are. I mean, we could not believe, and this was California. I know I could not believe, and none of the girls could believe how many Black and brown men were in there. And this was like, I went to college like in the 70s. Okay, so you can imagine now. So we went, we did volunteer work. So we were in and out of the prison, and I tried to help this guy named Michael. Helped him. He got paroled. He had a job, but he didn't want to take the job because he went in at 15 or 16. He got out, I think, at 27 or 29. But in his mind, he wanted to go back to college. Okay, and play basketball. And even when you're trying to say, look, I don't know if that's a good idea right now. You've got a job, you need to take this job. But of course, he wanted to kind of go back to college. And I think the fact that I was in college or whatever, so he tried going back to college and everything. But at that point, at least they gave you $250 when you got out. So at least you had something that you could at least buy some clothes, try to at least get something for when you get out. Now they give you zero, a bus ticket, okay? But the bottom line, because I think his perspective and attitude was just unrealistic, and I was really young then as well, he ended up going back to jail, okay? He really just did that cycle that they talk about. So I experienced that firsthand. I really did, watching somebody get out, get a second chance, and just wasn't prepared mentally or mature enough really to understand if you don't take this job, you have no way to eat. I'm a college student. I can't afford to take care of you, So I saw that cycle right then. And that was, I'm telling you, I was like, about 19 years old at that point when I saw that. Okay, fast forward. A good friend of mine, we've been friends, like her name is Brenda too, ironically enough. We've been friends for we were 25 years friends then when she mentioned Zane, and she had never mentioned him before. And so she said, I've never seen him so depressed and down. She said, can you, check on him for me? And he was stationed I'm not stationed, military terminology, sorry. He was incarcerated at a prison called Dallas. And Dallas prison is approximately 50 miles from where I live, Dallas, Pennsylvania. So I said, sure, I'll go visit him. So I went up to visit him and everything. And the first time I went, of course, I hadn't been in the prison in years from college till then. So, you can't have an underwire bra because it rings like a doorbell. So I had an underwire bra because I didn't know. So the first time I couldn't get in. So we visited each other basically like we're doing like now, like a Zoom type of thing. I met him over the screen and stuff. But I started visiting him. But I told him, I said, look, only way I'm going to come and visit you, I've got to read your entire case. I need to read your case. I said, everybody claims they're innocent. But I told him I want to read the pretrial. I want to read the case. And I did. It was like I had my highlighter and he was laughing. I said, and some popcorn. And I highlighted it, I tagged it and read it. And I read the whole thing. And it was about this thick. I mean, those cases, it's a lot. So in the pretrial, they had an attorney. But in most cases, people can't afford an attorney. They just really, really can't. And they wanted him to plea bargain. But he's like, I'm not going to plea bargain because I'm not guilty. He said, I didn't do this. I wasn't even there. His case is one of these things. He had never been at this park that they based the case on. I mean, he had been there, but he wasn't there that day at all. And with these girls, he wasn't there. So this was like a crazy case. And I even had another attorney review it for me. And she reviewed it and provided a letter and basically said, it's no way he should be in jail for this. Well, when they wanted him to plea bargain, and they said he would probably get 5 years. He went to case because I guess went to court and had a case. And they even basically, in a sense, threatened him and told him, well, if you go to court and you do a case, we're going to throw the book at you. And boy, did they. I think he's got like some astronomical crazy, like 65 years. Okay. That now, how can you plea bargain for 5 years and then you go and try to defend yourself with what we call a public pretender, which is the public defender, but and get 65 years, okay, running consecutively. I think it was 35 years to 35 years running consecutively. So the time that they give people is just unbelievable. So first, just think about that. How do you go from plea bargain? If I plea bargain and I say I'm guilty and I'm not, I get 5 years. But if I go to court and I fight for myself, I get 35 and 35, some crazy amount of time, which is basically, in a sense, like a life sentence. Because even when you think about it, when you go before the parole board, you have to say you're guilty. Because if you don't say you're guilty, you'll never get out. Because they'll think, well, you still haven't learned a lesson, you still haven't learned anything. So it's this crazy cycle. But the bottom line, he's one of these people that was self-taught, self-educated, got his GED, and plus he is an amazing attorney. I've read all of his legal work that he has submitted over and over and over until he was time barred, okay? Basically, time barred means, I'm going to read their definition. Time barred is one of those fancy legal terms referring to timing. The term usually refers to whether a lawsuit was filed in time under the statute of limitations. If not, then the whole case upon which the lawsuit is based could be dismissed. And basically that's what happened. And I've got to tell you one other thing that happened, which was really interesting. There is a judge in Harrisburg who used to be the the DA. He was the DA. He went from the assistant DA to the DA to the judge. So this same line, which doesn't seem right, He was the one that had this guy went to jail in 1994. I was trying to think, did I have a cell phone in 94? I honestly couldn't. I think we did have I couldn't remember if I had a cell phone, if we had cell phones in 94, but I think it was still roller dial, if I remember correctly. Okay, so he went in when they were still roller dialing on the phone. Okay, so the judge now, he was the assistant district attorney, then the district attorney. Now he's the judge that Zane, every thing that he submitted in, every case that he submitted in, the habeas corpus went through him, and he blocked every one of them. I followed it. I read everything. I read all of his replies, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Isn't this a conflict of interest? How can the person that was the person that prosecuted you and put you in jail, how can that same person now be the judge making a determination for you to be able to look if your case leaves his desk? Everything was denied. Every single thing was denied until he finally became time barred. So the system really isn't even fair, because part of it is too, think about it. If you don't have any money, you've got to learn the legal system yourself. You've got to be your own legal attorney. When he finally did get one of his cases that went up to the federal, oh, somebody's raising their hand. Oh, Karen, a friend of mine. When his case did go all the way up, what happened was that, let me just finish this thought. What happened when it went all the way up, because he had that same judge, I kind of lost my train of thought when I looked at that, I'm sorry. Was not only was he time barred, I'm sorry, but when it went all the way up, then he did a habeas corpus. He asked for an attorney. Guess what they told him? You look like you're a great attorney. We're denied. We're not going to give you an attorney. They denied him an attorney because they said, you've done such great legal work to get it this far. You don't need an attorney. But let's go to these questions.
So there's a question in the Q&A, and it's from Karen. And she said, Ms. Johnson, how do you think things can turn around, or rather, what can be done that's inclusive to combat racism?
Ooh.
Big question.
You know what? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news and gloom and doom and sound, but let's just look at what's going on right now with the Republican Party. Let's just look at that. Not bringing politics in it, but just look at what they're doing right now. That lets me see that the only way it's going to be turned around is people keep trying to vote and keep trying to vote out bad apples. Okay, the more they block you on voting, if they block early voting, okay, I have to be there to vote anyway. If they say some of the states have even blocked where you can't bring water, people cannot bring water to you. Okay, I got to bring my own chair, my own water, my own lunch. I mean, that's the only thing I can see as a remedy, is voting out those bad apples, and people have got to just vote, because I don't see any other way in the system that we have that it's going to happen. Did somebody else have a question?
Karen's raising her hand. Karen, we're still kind of learning the platform, so if you could type your question either in the Q&A or in the chat, that would be really helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, because I'm like trying to find it. Yeah.
Yeah, so she'll post it. I think she put her
thank you.
hand down, so she'll put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then, yeah, well, and just for anybody else who's watching, we can't see you or hear you. No, all of the attendees are in a an audience room. So the only people that can be seen are the panelists and the hosts. So if you have a question, you can use the Q&A feature or the chat. But we really tend to focus on the actual guest, who is the speaker of the month. So go ahead and put your questions in the chat where you're typing now, and we will definitely get to them in between things that maybe Brenda is sharing about, and we'll take a pause and look at questions and then come back to the things that the things that Brenda has on her topic.
I have it where I can see the questions. So if you have a question, you can definitely, we definitely please put it in there. I just wanted to, so I don't forget to, once people get out of prison, I think this is another thing that's really important. You then have fees. And I don't think a lot of times people realize that. I mean, we're talking about, if you say, oh my goodness, I want to be in a halfway house, that can be about $160 a week. Then you've got either, if not court fees, you've got fees that you have to pay back to the state. I mean, astronomical fees. And so you're talking about somebody, even say the 160, say the other fee may be $50 a week or whatever it is, but think about it. If you don't have a job and you don't have any money, and right now they've changed it, you can't get food stamps anymore. You can no longer get any kind of housing, Section 8. You can't get anything. And like I said, you get zero when you get out. I think you get a bus ticket. So you don't get anything. And not only that, if you don't have some community or family or friend support, when you go before the board, you're not going to get out. You will not get out without some community support. That's another thing. Okay, it's not possible to claim conflict of interest? Yes, he tried, because that's a great point, Beverly. And hi, Beverly. He tried. And at that point, I was looking at it, but I would have had to file a motion with the court. Everything that goes in has to go in as a motion. So that conflict of interest, to me, it was a clear conflict of interest, but it was so much in his case that he was trying at that point on that particular, I think he has probably submitted in about 10 different cases, we'll just say, trying to fight his case. And he did get to court a couple of two times. The one time he did get to court, I did go, I watched. And what he didn't prepare for is that he was going to have his hands handcuffed behind him where he couldn't get to his documents, because he was his own attorney. So he couldn't even really get to his documents. And he didn't really prepare to think, wow, let me just do a quick cheat sheet. So they basically, what they ended up doing was claiming that, Jody, what is the term that they use? Not a mistrial. Basically, they claimed, they went in to dismiss it. They went in dismissing. And so he basically barely got a chance to put anything out. Okay, it's my belief that it takes all races collectively to change racism, because racism is embedded in Black American race, even amongst ourselves. The foundation has to be ripped apart and a new foundation built to construct a society. Right, when we die and come back, I guess. I mean, because not trying to be facetious, but we're talking about 1700 and something. This has been going on since slavery began. So, I mean, if we're talking about 400 years or whatever right now, and it still hasn't changed, I know, I mean, I don't expect it to change in this lifetime. You know, my mom lived till 95 and it hadn't changed. So, you know, I don't see that it's going to change. There's no such thing as impossible. No, no, no. And I believe in the impossible. Let me go back. That's why I'm writing a book with him. Okay. That's why we're writing. No, it's not that nothing's impossible, but all things are possible to him who believes. But to me, I can't fight the system. I have to find a way around it, over it, under it, through it. And that's why Zane and I are writing a book together. Because the goal of writing a book together is so that if and when he does get out, he will have some money. Because otherwise, you do not have any money. He has one family member, her name is Brenda, beside me, that basically even talks to him kind of right now on a consistent basis. When you've been in jail, like for, I don't know if anybody out there has had a friend or family member that has been in jail. We're not talking about 1 or 2 years, but by the time you're in there, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, your family, you don't exist anymore to them. You really, really don't. It's a lot of people in there that don't have anybody at all to send them any money, to give them any to help with food. That's one of the things with the proceeds. Part of the proceeds, 10% of the proceeds is going to go back in to help those who don't have family members and that need food. We're talking about doing COVID and before we're buying, you got to have food. They've been locked in now for a year, 23 hours a day. Initially, they were in a cell is like, what is it, 6 by 8?
Small. It's small.
It's small. 2 men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bunk bed, a desk, a toilet, and a sink. Mm-hmm. And you're locked in there. They were getting 30 minutes out. During that 30 minutes, you can make a phone call. You can get on the kiosk and type an email. You can take a shower. You got 30 minutes a day. And I think that's not even every day. That is like, I think, every other day. This has been going on for a year. So now there's no visitors because of COVID. Everything is in lockdown. So that's where we're at. I'm going to come back to that. Let me see. Yeah, but I've got some real statistics on COVID straight from the horse's mouth. I'm getting ready to talk about that right now.
So let me just make sure we read the question so that the people who are watching and listening on the other side.
Please,
so the question was from Karen Chapman. Are the COVID stats being reported amongst the prisoners, and are the Black populated more prone to dying from COVID? So you're going to get to that. Go right ahead.
I don't have that specific stat. What I'm talking about, Karen, is from a personal level, from the people I know personally in prison that have suffered from COVID. So overall, I don't have those stats. My objective was to bring it from a personal level.
That's a great question, which maybe I can look up right now while you talk.
Okay. Now, let me just tell you what's going on at this. I'm going to just talk about briefly only Dallas, but he left Dallas and they put him in a different prison right up at the Ohio border now. What happened was they had it down where I think about 6 to 8 months ago, they were cleaning with bleach and really cleaning almost every night. They were cleaning and cleaning. That stopped. They stopped cleaning. If they want a mask, they have to buy a mask. Now, $2.75 doesn't sound like a lot. But when you don't have any, like I said, no family members, no one at all, you then don't have $2.75 to buy a mask. Okay, so that means they were using socks, t-shirts, rags, whatever they could find. Now, let me just tell you, of the prison that he left, They had an outbreak of 1,000 people and they didn't know how. The prison he's at on the they area he was in, they had no outbreaks because they were monitoring it and they were doing the best that they could. And they kept saying, all of a sudden, it was like popcorn. This person got COVID. This one got it. This one got it. And they kept wondering, how are all these people getting it when, we're not going out? So it's got to be coming in. This is going to make your stomach hurt how it was spreading. People that were diabetics had to get their shots every day. Some of them came over, they were bringing them to the clinic to get their shots, but they started coming and giving them the shots. The medical staff was not changing their smocks or their gloves. So every person they gave a shot to, they did not clean themselves. And so if you were a diabetic, I gave you a shot, then I just went right to the next person, didn't change my gloves, disinfect them or anything, and gave the next person a shot. That's how it spread. And Zane's roommate was a diabetic. Zane got COVID. He got COVID. He said the first 3 days he thought he was going to die, and he has asthma. He said the first 3 days was so bad he thought he was going to die. He said he made it through the first 3. And I asked, well, what do they give you? Tylenol. So they gave him Tylenol, but he thought he was sick. He said then about the 4th and 5th day wasn't as bad, but he was tired and weak. And so he survived COVID in there. He said they had a lot of them that basically several died. Others were put on the respirators. Others stayed in the cell and were just sick as a dog. What doesn't make sense, once again, how can you know his cellmate is positive and you don't move the other person? I mean, it's just so ridiculous the way that it was handled. And then he said he heard the staff saying, I wish this thing would hurry up and get over, that it would just run its course in here. So he felt that they were basically just letting it just run its course without trying to stop it any further. Because remember what I was saying, originally they were cleaning, they were disinfecting, they were doing everything they could do, and then they just stopped doing any of those things. So that's just, yeah, just crazy. Oh, thank you. Go ahead. Did you want to read that?
Sure, and this is the 2 different sources, but
Thank you.
there have been nationally, there have been 383,754 cases of coronavirus reported among prisoners. 307,363 prisoners have survived, which means around 77,000 or 74,000 did not survive. Much of the data that I found on race is obscured, but it said one article states that of the 8,766 positive tests in this one location, 27% of those infected were white. The majority were Black, Latino, and other unknown races. So 22% Black, 47% Latino, and 7% of unknown races.
Wow. Thank you.
BIPOC
So
community.
that answered the question that you had, Karen. Wow. Yeah. And they only just recently started keeping those stats. Remember, they weren't keeping the stats among race originally at all. Okay, I'm going to go into how we came up with this book idea. My mom was in before she passed away, she was in California. So I was in back and forth to from Pennsylvania to California all the time, flying back and forth. Well, one time flying back, we were flying over the Rockies. I looked out the window and I said, wow, what if Zane and I wrote a book together? I said that would then give him some money if and when he got out. I said, wow. I said, then when he went before the parole board, at least it looked like he was doing something. So I thought, wow, Zane Khan, Man of Adventure series. I thought, ooh, I like that. And then I said Zane Khan, and it was instead of convict, okay, that's where we came up with Zane Khan, Man of Adventure series. We spelled it Kohn, Zane Khan. So it is a series. It's called the Man of Adventure series, and this is the first book. It's the One World Order, abbreviation OWO. And I'm just going to kind of read you one of the overviews of what the book is about. The One World Order, the AKA, many thought it was a myth. Some knew it existed and was ruled by the 1%. Zane Khan's team and associates found the real purpose of the One World Order and their plot to rule everything and everyone. Lovers turned assassins, friends turned enemies, a virus released to create a vaccine, dreams turned into reality. Enter Zane Khan's dream world of intrigue, love, power, murder, and the ruthless pursuit of control. Enter at your own risk.
Mm.
Another thing I wrote for the back cover is Zane Khan jailed for over 10 years for a crime he did not commit. Dreams and daydreams of his real life of being a rich world player of goodwill. With assassin teams, beautiful, powerful women, and international travel, he exposes the deep underworld of the wealthy and world leaders. The One World Order releases the coronavirus on the world with devastating biological effects. Intentionally, the effects affect dark pigmentations. They die at an alarmingly higher rate. As Zane desperately tries to piece together his real life and his dream world, they collide with devastating, unexpected outcomes. So what the book is basically about is it goes from it doesn't focus on the jail, okay? It's basically he dreams. He daydreams and he dreams the whole book. He's daydreaming everything and dreaming, and he's mastered his dreams so much that he can control his dreams to where he wants them to go. Say for example, he dreams something he doesn't really like, he'll redream it and make it different. Okay, or he dreams that he has a woman named Jade who's a beautiful international model, but then she becomes but actually she's an assassin called the Black Widow, and then she tries to kill him, and that was the woman in the dream, the woman of his life. And so it's a lot of different. I've traveled a lot internationally, so he lived his life in a sense vicariously through me. So he goes to Dubai, he goes to all these different places that I've described to him that I had gone to. And so they just go different places in the world, staying at these beautiful, elaborate places. He has a ranch in Texas and another ranch that's in Colorado. And the book moves back and forth between him being in jail, but it doesn't focus on the jail. And the majority of the book is focusing in his dream world. Like he'll wake up and it'll say the man awoke and he was in a cell, or he awoke in his small bed, but then he went back to sleep because where he woke up at, he wanted to finish that part of the dream. And so he would go back to sleep and go back, and he was in Brazil, for example. So it moves all over the world internationally. It's a lot of key players in it. people with the name the grasshopper because he hops from country to country. You've got the Green Widow, who was a beautiful woman. She was brutally raped on a beach, and so she hates men now, but she's a very wealthy woman, and she's out to get the one world order because she knows these are some of the wealthy men that were behind what happened to her, because she was raped on the beach by 4 rich college kids when she was in Cuba at that point. Then there's a young lady in there named Maya. She's a Native American Indian, but she goes to Cuba as well on a missions trip, and she finds her on the beach all beat up, and they become lifelong buddies and friends. So it travels all over the world. So you can travel with me through the book. That I'm working on it still. I've got 250 some over pages, but I'm changing some of the things at the end right now because it's ending on a cliffhanger, so that you want to get the next book in the series.
How often do you and Xavier or Zane? How do you
Zane, yeah,
Zane?
Zane Xavier.
How often do you meet, and how much does he get to contribute to, or how does he actually participate?
Yeah, here's what we did. He would write a chapter and mail it to me. Okay. All right. And then I go through it, and he gets to text back and forth. They call it texting, but it's more like emailing to me. Okay. You can get paid email. And so, because you only get 15 minutes on the phone, so you don't have enough time on the phone to talk about the book. We have enough time to argue about the book on the phone. But that's how we did it. He would write a chapter, he'd send it to me, because we had discussed everything first, and then I would rewrite it and edit it, and that's how we've gotten and we have a whole book. Yeah. Wow. Like I said, we've got over 55,000 words.
Do you see this as a project that could potentially be offered to more inmates to so they can start to build a life for themselves before, for when they get out? There is not a lot of support and resources for inmates, and they really do have a hard time getting jobs too, because they've got a label on them, right? Especially,
exactly.
Yeah.
I do. This is something, I guess you can say this is the test case in a sense. Okay. It is something that we'd like to carry on and be able to help other people with that. And the thing is, the key is what we argued about, I got to tell you, with the book, is he wanted to write a regular prison book. And this may sound cold, but I said, nobody cares. They're not good. They don't want to read about that. They want to read about something other than I'm sitting in prison, I've been beat up, I said, people want to read about something else. I said, so let's make it about something else that's going to get people's attention. How many books do you envision? Right now, about 3 or more in this series. James Patterson and his Woman's Murder Mystery Club, I've read every book. They're up to book 21, I believe, right now. I haven't read 21. I read up to 20. So James Patterson did it. They've got 21 books. So we're starting with 3, and we'll go from there. Because I've got other books I've got to finish myself as well. I've got half finished. Mm-hmm. Yep. But we're going to get this first one out. And then you end up with a lot of information for a book. So it's a lot of things right now that I'm putting to the second book, because it's just too much information, too many different characters. What I want to narrow it down to, you have the same group of characters that carry through the whole book, but doing different things.
It's interesting. I actually would like to hear the story of his life in prison and how that I almost wonder if there's a way to I mean, clearly you're further along, but to intertwine that fantasy experience with the real life experience that he's in pain with every day.
Well, he's got a lot of writing. What I told him to go ahead and write that book.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I said go because he was writing some poetry that's real heavy duty. I didn't even understand a lot of it, honestly. So he's got a lot of poetry that's really heavy duty. So I told him to go ahead and write that book.
Yeah.
But let's finish this joint, the joint books. Let's go ahead and get those out so we can start promoting those and then possibly promoting something to help other people to be able to do something similar.
Right. Well, once you get those books out, the name will be out there. So when he publishes
Exactly.
his book with his name, people will be like, oh, I know this person.
Exactly. And that's the objective. It really, really is the objective and the goal. Yeah. And I didn't mean it to sound like that, but like nobody's interested in your prison experience. I mean, it's, I don't mean it to sound like that, but I'm just saying it's a lot of books that are out there about the prison experience. And it really is, whew,
it's awful. It's intense.
If you can make it through where you survive and you've got respect on the inside, where they're not trying to beat you up to, all the time, basically to prove that they're more of a man than you are or whatever, then, survival of the fittest is definitely the thing. It really is. It's tough. But my thought was, do this first, then come back and do that book. Because like you said, then you have a name and people would be interested in your story and how you survived. But I just find, I don't know, it's a lot of books out there about people in prison. So I'm thinking, let's do something different first and then come back and you can write that. And that makes sense. You've got a name then. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Jody?
I just a little bit different. I mean, I know that when you had emailed saying, "Hey, like I'm writing this book, and I'm really passionate about mass incarceration and what's happening in our prison system." It was also the timing. It's Black History Month, and we're at the end of it. So, what would you want everyone to know regarding Black History Month and this? That piece that we've been talking about, but regarding mass incarceration and the systemic oppression.
Yes, I think the important thing. I'm going to go back for Black History Month. For years, when I was in the Army, I wrote a play called History Through the Ages, and the reason I wrote a play, and we did it at several bases that I was stationed at. We did the play. I did it in a couple of schools because I had all the costumes and everything. And it went from the biblical ages all the way up at that point up to present day. And that was something I used to do. And I had written it because I honestly, for me, I was just tired of hearing speaker after speaker, and I wanted to do something different. And so what I think with Black History Month is that we need to bring in some different voices, some different things into it so it doesn't die out. That's my concern, is that people are going to stop going to listen to a speaker all the time or to go hear this or that about Black History Month. And it's really important that we keep it alive. And how we keep it alive is by making it exciting, bringing it in from different perspectives, bringing in your life experiences, say, for example, with the prison industrial complex, bringing in some different ways. And that was one of the things that I had done. And hopefully, God willing, next year, I'd like to try to do the play again. The play has like about 10 different people, 10 people, you need about 10 people to do the play. but it carries history all the way through, and then it's just something different. So I think the thing is that we've got to keep it alive by keeping it exciting for people, keeping people interested in it, not only just in the statistical aspect of it, because they can look that up to me themselves in a sense, but bringing in your personal perspective, some things that happen to you, some not only negative things, but a negative that you were able to turn around into a positive. And really, I think it's important that people, non-whites, understand we don't walk around every day thinking, I'm black, I'm going to be beat up, I'm going to be afraid. You're just like, can I please live my life in peace? You know, I mean, can I do me? Can the same doors be open for me that are open for everybody else? And I think that, and I'm speaking for me as a Black woman, that's what you want. You want, if Sally can walk in the bank and get a loan with her credit, then I should be able to walk in the bank and get a loan with the same credit that Sally has, or better credit. I should be able to do that. So that's what I think, what I want people to know and to realize, that people want the same things that everybody has available for them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Beverly put a question here.
So she wrote, your point of Zane writing something different is valid. It would help to counteract persuasive stereotypes and prejudices of who Black prisoners are and what they can do.
Right. And that was, thank you, Beverly. And that was kind of my thinking. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't mean for it to come out. No, nobody wants to hear that experience.
Well, and I think, I'll just add to that point, Beverly, when people saw Amanda Gorman speak at the inauguration, instead of saying she's an exceptional individual, there are a lot of young Black women who are hell of intelligent, and I mean, more intelligent than some white people. So it's not that she's exceptional or she's extraordinary or that she's singular. She happened to get highlighted. Thank God. She should have been highlighted. And there's so many other Black women who need to have that attention. And I think that when you're talking about someone like Zane in prison, he needs to be able to get out. He needs to get his attention. And he's not just a prisoner and a dumbass. He is an intelligent human being who is needing to be able to start a life. And that's how you're helping him do it. And the spotlight needs to go on anybody who's intelligent and stellar, because there are so many examples of intelligent and stellar that don't get that light because
exactly. And what I'm doing is I'm using my life. I think being a military officer opens a lot of doors for me. And I believe that's going to help to open doors to promote the book. So I think I can use myself and some of the organizations I'm involved with to be able to open the doors, okay, to get the book promoted. And that's really the objective, because buying the book is not only just, benefiting us, it's benefiting other people. We're donating a portion of the proceeds to the book to help other guys in prison that don't have any family, that can't buy food, that can't buy, that green soap that they have in there. I gotta just tell you this real quick. When I lived in Africa for a year, and that same green soap, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that green soap. It doesn't have a smell. It's really, really harsh. That same green soap that they use in Africa, because it's really cheap, they have in the prisons in America. When you go in the bathroom from the visiting section, you go in the bathroom. I hated to use the bathroom there. I'm telling you, it was very mysterious for me with the metal toilets and stuff. But anyway, they had that green soap in there. And the first time I saw the soap, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the soap they had in Africa, because it was really cheap. Are there any campaigns to purchase it? No, but that's really what I would like. No, I got you the necessities that they need. That's really one of the things that I'm trying to get exposed and really trying to be able to do. I did not do a fundraiser or whatever. I thought I would get the book out and start getting it promoted. And then possibly from that, you can roll into some other things, okay, to do some fundraisers for other people. Because the things I would help him with, he shares it with somebody else who doesn't have family members. Are there nonprofits that are doing that? I think it was, but a lot of the nonprofits right now, my God, I know we've all seen the lines for food for people, just regular Americans kind of trying to eat right now. I think a lot of the nonprofits, their funding has gone down or the giving has gone down because people had gotten hit so hard. And so it may be some, but I really didn't see that many that really had the funding to be able to do that because it's so many needs. And that was why I thought of this as a creative way to be able to open the door, expose his writing, hopefully help him so when he does go before the parole board, they can see that he's done something. Because I had done some research on parole, and Jody, I'm sure you're familiar with this. You basically either, if you don't have any kind of certifications, and a lot of them don't have the money, thank you for certifications. If you don't have the money and everything for those certifications, you've got to show the parole board that you're doing something with your life, that you're not just sitting in there every day for the last, however many years that you've been there. Because if you don't show them that you're doing something, then bad on you. When you go before them, before the board, you won't get out if they don't think you're doing anything. And you've got to have some support in order to be able to get out, or you're just not going to be able, unfortunately, to get out.
And a couple of pieces there. People should know that, first of all, oftentimes because of how our system is, and there's a movement to get away from it, but you sit in jail before you even have a hearing or a plea offer made because bail is set. And when we're looking at what happens is low-income individuals, BIPOC communities don't have money, so they sit in jail because they can't make bail, and that's before any determination is made about someone's guilt or innocence, right? They're charged with a crime, they're arrested, and then they sit in jail. And the other piece is, even if someone gets out on parole, oftentimes, particularly BIPOC community, they are getting put back in jail for violations of parole or probation. But the violations aren't because of a new crime. It's because of a technical violation. For instance, they might have failed a drug test, or they might not report to probation or be at the address that they said they're going to be at. So for a very minor violation of parole or probation, they're going back in jail, and it's mostly affecting the BIPOC community.
Yes. I'm going to come back to somebody. Let me see. Somebody said, I commend you, Miss Johnson, because you're a change maker. Thank you. I know this from your personal experience from with you. Yeah, when I lived in the Middle East, ambitious and dedicated, and you like to, yes, no, thank you so much. Yeah, living in the Middle East was amazing, and we did start an Arab girls basketball team, and all my girls covered, and we could only have all females in there. Man, oh man, that was amazing. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. The scholarship, I looked, Zane wanted to go to school to be able to get his, a certificate for paralegal. And it was going to be $1,500, not counting the books. Or maybe that was including the books. And I tried to find scholarships. I talked to those schools. I said, do you have any kind of scholarships? Are there any scholarships available? I didn't see any. Now, just because I didn't see any doesn't mean that there aren't scholarships available, but Ria is the scholarship guru. That is her business. So Ria, I mean, if you see any scholarships, oh my goodness, I am really open to that. I know the schools I tried to work with him on getting in, they had nothing for them, no scholarships or anything.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, thank you. I'm saving these things you're putting in there. Thank you. Any other questions that anybody else had as well?
Wow, $1,000 poetry. And those contests can be entered by anyone, Ria, prison inmates and people in rehab for drugs. Anybody can participate in those. The whole world. That's beautiful.
Great.
Wow.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Good to know. Yeah, I will save that as well. And I just before we forget, because sometimes we do, if we do have any attendees that are here on the webinar who would like to be a panelist or a guest, such as Brenda Johnson, and her daughter Amber was with us too several while ago, I'm going to put the link in for you to schedule. Typically, we can have up to 5 panelists in one event. Today was specifically centered around Brenda and the book and incarceration and Black Lives Matter, as far as in honor of Black History Month. But I know that there are a couple people here in the attendance line that had expressed interest even to join us tonight. And we really want to give people the opportunity to have time to advertise who they are, to have it out there, what you represent, what's important to you, so that it's not just a last minute, here's this person. We really want to, so we didn't have as much time as we usually do for Brenda because we had our regular webinar on the 21st. And as Brenda was so graciously graceful and loving to say, hello, ladies, what about Black History Month? And we're like, yes, of course we'll have you in honor of Black History Month. And we're so delighted. But I will put the link in the chat if there's anybody who would like to join us for future webinars. Typically, they're held on the 3rd Sunday of every month. From the same time. It's 6:30 Eastern to 8 o'clock. And so, yeah, if you're interested, you can certainly sign up for the future dates. I just want to remember to say that because I do often forget. So
I just want to circle back to that. I mean, there's a question in the chat regarding, ability to get items to inmates. And
Right.
I think it's an excellent opportunity too to think about community organizing and
Yes.
getting a group of people going to the prison board at your local prisons and identifying, hey, prisoners don't have the mask, and can we donate, or how can we donate, or
Right.
what changes is the prison going to make to keep people safe during COVID and what's happening. And I know that has been successful in some communities regarding community organizing and approaching prisons regarding treatment of inmates.
Yes, yes. That's ridiculous that they had to buy masks. I mean, a decent one.
Great.
Okay. I mean, where are they supposed to like I said, if you don't have family support, you do not have anything in there if you don't have family support. And when I say right now, imagine for a year, they've been eating bag lunches. Now, I don't know what's in that thing, okay? But they've been eating bag lunches for a year. Originally, the outbreak started in the kitchen, okay? So I don't know, if it was from bringing in the food and not cleaning it off. I mean, the cans, and everything, it could be passed that simple, the boxes or whatever. I'm not sure, but wow. Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions that they have on the top of their hearts? And I think everyone that's in here, I basically so far, I think I have your emails, because what I want to do is I'm building an email list to send out information on the book.
Oh, good.
I'm going to be putting some chapters and stuff out just kind of some of the chapters for people to read through of the book and everything.
Well, and
Um,
Brenda, we have a follow-up process with the Zoom has it creates
okay,
a spreadsheet of everyone who signed up. So there
great.
were 20 people who signed up. So even though not all 20 are here tonight,
Okay,
they'll get a follow-up email and you
okay,
can send me anything you want that can continue
okay.
to go out to those
Oh,
people.
thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Or
Oh,
us, and us, I keep saying.
oh no, thanks. Anything else that anybody else had as far as on the book questions, on anything else? Um, it was so much with the prison experience. And I think my initial prison experience was just really interesting when they allowed us to come in and basically to do volunteer work. I did. Oh my God, I forgot. I did it one other. I did it another time when I lived in Jersey. I used to volunteer with my ex-husband and I. We volunteered at the prison, and we went in and we taught Bible study. I did that once again. They allowed us to come in and teach Bible. We would have Bible study classes and stuff. So I say that because I know everybody's everywhere, but once it kind of gets back to normal, whatever normal will be, they're always looking for volunteers. They are always looking for people to volunteer your time, to come in there to do, if you want to do a Bible study, if you come in there and you wanted to do an event. Like I said, I may try next year for Black History Month. You'd have to almost start in, I'd have to start almost in October, really, to be able to try to see if I can get the prisoners to play those different roles and parts.
Oh, that would
Okay.
be. When
Yeah.
I used to sing with the Oakland Interfaith Gospel Choir. And we
Okay.
actually did have, I was only with them for barely a year because then I had to stop. But we actually went to the San Francisco men's jail
Oh,
and
okay.
sang for them, and it was quite an
Wow.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would love to bring my music into the prisons. I just have to wait
Yeah.
when it's I don't know if
No,
they're going to do that through
exactly.
Zoom or not.
Exactly. Yeah, because I work right now with the Veterans Coalition group, and they have a lot of resources for it's a lot of vets in jail too. Whoa, boy, it's some stories out there, I'm telling you, of how people get caught up in the system. And it's like a spider web's nest. It's kind of like you get that web on you and you're fighting to get it off of you the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's a miracle for people that have gone to jail and have gotten out and not got stuck in the system. It
Uh-huh.
really, really is. It really is.
Mm.
Yeah. Was there anything else anybody wanted to add?
I was looking back through the chat and I didn't see. We did, for those of you who are here on the chat, we did post some links, and then I did post some things in the Facebook what's it called? Live stream. But I have not actually been able to monitor so well the podcast, so I'll go back to that and put some things in that chat. Um, Oh, yeah. It's so nice that so many of your friends get. So here's another comment. Thank you for sharing information about the current state of life in prison and the purpose of your book.
My sister.
Helpful. Aw.
In California too. You were saying
Oh,
here,
yeah. I'm from
Southern
California,
California.
Bernice.
Yes, yeah, yes.
Yeah. So what are your I know you talked about timeline, but when are you hoping the first book will come out? And then when um what are you thinking as far as publicity? Like, have you talked to the media about it? And how does this impact Zane in prison? Because, I mean, clearly this is not his prison story. He's not writing about that right now for
Right.
publishing. But that something he would have to wait for before he gets out of, I mean, to get out of jail to have that published? Could that affect him staying in jail longer? Could there
What
be
his
repercussions
story?
to him speaking truth?
Um, Let me see. I'm not sure. That's a good point. I'm not sure, but here's my objective. Thank you, Lorraine. And she said, that's another.
Yeah.
Here, my objective is this. Once I get the book where I feel it's tight and get it to the editor where it's being edited and everything, then I know once I get it to the editor, then I get it to the other editor because I want it to come out in paperback and in downloading a
Oh,
Kindle.
digital. Okay.
Yeah, digital, both. Okay, both going both ways. Once I get to that point, then I know it's time to get it in different people's hands. That's why I want the paperback as well and the downloadable, the digital, to be able to send it out to the media and stuff. Because my daughter made a good point. She said, they're always looking for stories. She said they are always looking for stories. So I want to get it finished in order to be able to do that. That's the important thing. I don't want it as I'm working on something, it's better to have it finished and be able to send it out to them. So that's the objective. My real goal is I'm hoping they can go in, if he's still in there, and interview him for the book. That is what the real goal, one of the real goals is, because then with the portion that's going to be donated back into that prison that he's in to help people, okay, I think that would be very key, number one. Number two, to try to start it as a program. But the thing is, for it to start as a program, I want it understood. I'm not going to be the one writing the book with you, okay? Because that's the thing. That's the thing. Then you get all these invites. Well, can you write a book with me? Or do you have a sister or a cousin or a friend that can write a book with me? So that's the thing. I have to figure out, and I'm open for ideas, everyone, too, of how to do that so that I'm not at the middle, the person that would be writing with them. But if someone else would be interested in writing a book with someone like we did, we made it work. I mean, I'm telling you, we had some drag out arguments, fights over the book. Believe me, over, no, it shouldn't go this way. It should go this direction. Believe me. And co-writing my first book I'm putting out to co-write it is challenging, because when you're doing it yourself, you do whatever you want. But when you're writing it with someone else, I'm trying to honor him as well, so he doesn't think I'm just changing everything. But I told him, I said, I just, with some things I felt we needed to change so that it ends on a cliffhanger, so you buy the next book, and we keep people's interest.
Yeah.
It's got to be, turned sharp corners, and they're like, whoa, they're still looking this way, and we're over to this way. That's what I'm doing, and adding that into it. So, yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
That's right. Yeah. And Lorraine says she enjoyed our prison ministry. Yeah. Yeah. And we used to, Lorraine and I used to feed the homeless down in Philadelphia.
Oh.
We took food. We cooked food when I lived in Browns Mills, New Jersey then. We cooked food and we took it out to the homeless. And most of those homeless were veterans. A big percentage were veterans. We had a coat drive. We got coats for them and winter clothing and everything. And it's challenging for the homeless as well. Yeah, it really is. It's so many needs. And here, this is one of the things I want to say. My life purpose is to help one person. If I can't help the world, but I can at least help one. I can at least help one. And in helping that one, I'm helping multiple other people. It's like the stone or pebble that goes in the ripple effect. And that's really my goal, is to be able to be a blessing to other people and to help them.
Well, and I think that's a beautiful invitation that you're giving everybody here listening right now, right? Because
Yeah.
it seems it's much more doable if we think about it. If we can help one person
Yeah,
each, then we're already talking about, well, there's 12 people for
yeah,
14 people,
yeah,
so, and then
yeah.
those 14 people will end up, it's not that, so I think what society forgets is that it doesn't have to be reciprocal, right?
Right,
You help one
right.
person, that person doesn't come back and help you, they help one new person.
Exactly. No, exactly, exactly. Because I can't help the whole world. Because if you look, you eat the elephant one bite at a time. We say, because otherwise it looks overwhelming.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's like the story of the girl on the beach throwing the starfish back into the water, and an old man says to her, "What are you doing? You're never going to help these people." And she picks up one, throws it in, and said, "I just helped that starfish." And then the old man bent down, grabbed one, and threw one in.
Wow, that's a good point. That's excellent. Yeah. Yep. I
Wow,
know.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So happy end of Black History Month, everyone. Thank you. Hopefully, you got to attend at least one event and do something and just be you and help somebody and reach out somewhere. So
Absolutely. And it's
we want
not
to
the
make
end
sure to
of
continue
creating Black
supporting.
history. We're celebrating Black history, but we now have new Black history starting up with Kamala in the White House.
Oh
And
my
I mean,
goodness.
we're really, you know,
Yeah,
it's when I
yeah,
hear Black History Month,
yeah,
I get goosebumps thinking, oh no, it's just the start. It's not
yeah,
history at all anymore. It's like, woo, let's do this.
yeah. It's
So yeah.
happening. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
pretty
women's, exactly,
amazing.
you're right, Ray. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say the
Yeah.
name wrong? Rhea?
Oh,
How do you say?
Rhea, yeah,
Rhea.
and
Yes, Women's History
yeah,
Month starting
yeah, and
tomorrow. That's
yeah,
right.
Women's History. I used to do a play for Women's History Month too.
Ah,
I wrote a play for that as well. Yeah, yeah, I did. Yep.
Brenda, to end on, is there a message that you think Zane would want people to know regarding incarceration and being a black male that was incarcerated, or a message that he would want people to know?
I think so. Having been in there since 1994 or 95, I think it's be don't give up, learn as much as you can, read as much as you can, motivate yourself if you don't have anybody else to motivate you. And I believe as you do that, somewhere someone will come in and be a blessing to you because they do need help. They need help in there. They really do to survive. So that's what I believe the thing is just keep persevering, keep pushing forward.
thank you.
Thank you. Great message.
Thank you. I'm just
Yes.
putting some stats in the
Oh, thank
chat
you.
really quickly. I just was doing a little bit more research.
Okay.
Well, multitasking, right? So these are
No, thank you.
stats about prison inmates and the percentage of Black versus other races, as well as age disparity. And also, all of you who have attended will get a follow up email thanking you for your attendance. But also, we've got two documents that we send out. One's called a scaffolding document that we did not create, and another one is called Resources to Becoming Better Allies. So if you have people who are non-BIPOC who are interested in making a difference, interested in putting a stake in the ground to be dismantling white supremacy, to acknowledge their racist tendencies and become anti-racist, those two documents will be in your follow-up email, and feel free to share those with anybody. Like it's got documentaries, books to read, charities that can be financed, podcasts, articles. They're very rich resource documents because we try to let our viewers and listeners understand that we're not inviting panelists from the BIPOC community here to educate white people. We are inviting BIPOC community members here to speak their truth, their feelings in a safe place where they're not going to be chastised, they're not going to be judged, they're not going to be brought down or hurt in any way. So this is our part of our purpose and our mission. So thank you
But
for.
thank you so much for having the heart to have that mission because it's helping us to get exposure and get our feelings and thoughts out and important information out. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. And we're wishing you and Zane the best of luck with the book that's coming out. We're excited to
Thank
read it
you.
ourselves and to see the series that's happening, and excited for Zane and his opportunity to, be a part of that process, and then also to tell his story in many different ways and through his poetry, etc.
Right. He's got a lot of poetry. It's heavy duty. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here and coming. And wow,
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Good friends, clearly, and
Yes.
thank you. And we'll stop the live stream, but people can stay in.
That's good. What Lorraine just said, the last thing.
Knowing it's born a racist, it's a taught behavior. So
Yes,
right, Lorraine.
Yes.
So right. When the two of us had to admit that we had racist tendencies, whether by vocabulary or microaggressions, it was painful. And yet, knowing that it was a taught behavior through society, through media, we won't dismiss the negativity that it has brought to the BIPOC community, but we also will not completely chastise ourselves, because we have good hearts and we're doing the best we can to, and even more than that, to improve the world together.
Well, thank you so much. You're improving it. You really are. You're taking a stand. And that's what I'm saying. If we do one thing each, we never know the ripple effect of that.
Absolutely.
I mean, we just don't know. It gave me chills thinking about that.
We invite everyone to really think about that piece, that it's a taught behavior, and what we all can do as a society, I should say, as individuals, as whether we're in coupleship or not, as families, as communities, and the greater society to end racism.
So true. Well, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
For attending, and
thank you, everyone.
All right.